Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the last installment for games of Decade List Week 2010s. This is going to be my breakdown of my top 20 best games that I played throughout the decade. Now, like every other list, I did not play every single game that came out this past decade, but I did play a lot of games, so there's more than likely some things you would expect to see on here and some that might surprise you, but either way, let's dive on in.
Borderlands Dose.
As stated in my top 11 co-ops games list, I had a hell of a time playing Borderlands 2 with my co-op partner in crime, Shake Pool. There's a lot of quests in this game, some big, some small.
Face! Tired of waiting! No more waiting! Need a face shot! Boom! Squish! Yay! Thank you!
Lots of comedy, it's potent. Lots of guns, there's a whole bunch of them. And I had a lot of fun exploring this world, more so than the first Borderlands. And while I didn't finish the pre-sequel, a lot more so than in the pre-sequel. I like the character set that's here. I like that there's a vast number of combinations you can have of a team. And I like that you can tackle it in ways of big groups or small, and you don't feel like the world's against you. This game is really well balanced and provided just a holistic RPG gunner experience. The shooting is fun in this game. The vehicles are nice to control. This is just a great expansion on a really solid game of Borderlands 1 into 2. And the story is great as well. One of the best couch co-op experiences I had of the decade, for sure. The level of customization you can have with your runs, given the number of spells you can have, the different attack types you can have within the spells, the relics you can have, the cloak you can use, and the fact that you can have someone else with a completely different playstyle with you that you should synergize with, makes this game incredibly dynamic in very subtle ways. You know, I love that even though there's only 4 elements of the types of temples, you can still have an infinitely different number of runs because of the types of dungeons that generate, because of the playsets that you can customize with. There's not a whole lot of here that's substantive from a story perspective, but as far as roguelikes go, this is such a customizable experience. You know, I love that the updates that they've added have added great quality of life to this game. This is a game that I continue to keep coming back to because there's so much shit you can do, and there's a level of customization that you just don't get with this type of roguelike because of the couch co-op aspect, and I think it's utilized really, really well. Like I said in my of the year list not too long ago, I love Mario Maker 1, and I think Mario Maker 2 made a lot of great quality of life improvements to that. And now that I've finally started to make my own levels because I have the game myself, it has been even more fun. I'm so glad to be a part of this community now, and I'm glad that I'm making levels and I'm playing people's levels. This is just a great community-driven game, and I love the community that's here because there's so many different types of levels that you can play. I obviously have my favorites and others have theirs, and I love that you can just find any type of level that you want and play it, or make it yourself. This is such a great creative tool that I'm glad that Nintendo gave us. The best remake of the decade, hands down. You know, even just the changing of the gameplay style would have been enough to make this game better, but because they took something familiar and tweaked it just a little bit in a few little ways to make it that much more of a fresher experience was so great. This is one of my most anticipated games of the decade once it was kind of announced that it was going to be happening, and when it finally came out, it was well worth the wait. Again, everything that I love about Resident Evil 2 is here. It's just put into a contemporary setting in such a great way. Still floored by how fantastic this is.
Are you sure the only you is you?
The fact that we still had people theorizing about what PT may or may not have been about in 2019 says more than I ever could about this demo that may or may not have been Hideo Kojima working his way around an NDA. This is a great, surreal horror experience that I feel like not only did what a lot of the trends were doing perfectly as far as the first-person horror thing that was huge this decade, but I feel like it motivated other big companies like Capcom to step up their horror game, and I feel like, honestly, we would not have Resident Evil in the current state it's in if it were not for PT. Still, one of the most unnerving experiences I had playing a game the entire decade, and I really am glad it exists, even if it was for just a small period of time. Talked about this pretty recently, but I love Bioshock. I talked about it on my games that don't need sequels, and I don't think it needs a sequel because Bioshock 1 is amazing. It's pretty much a perfect game. Bioshock 2, pretty solid follow-up, but Bioshock Infinite, equal to Bioshock 1 as far as perfection goes. The world of Columbia is pretty great. It's full enough to make you feel satisfied traveling it. The way the story is told, it's so dramatic, and the presentation is top-notch. The shooting in this game, great. The vigors in this game, so fun to use. You know, it gave me the same feeling playing the first Bioshock did, but the story goes into some really interesting concepts that I think it handles gracefully. You know, I love the main two characters, but there's just a lot going in this game that isn't like Bioshock, but still feels like Bioshock in a very different way. And I think that they nailed it with this game. And like I said, they don't need to top it. They don't need to try to come close to it. This is just such a good game that had one of the best endings of a game that I've played all decade. Honestly, I think my man Shake said it best.
Whoa, wait, stop. How can you possibly expect to sum up the amazingness of this game in 5 seconds? What words can you say that explain one of the best stories you've ever heard? What words can you say that explain some of the best characters and character development that you've seen in a game since you can't even remember when? What could you say in 5 seconds that explains one of the most perfect, most well-assembled pieces of brilliance you've seen in your favorite media? The art, the characters, the story, the real raw emotions it made you feel as it took you on this roller coaster of ups and downs that's probably been better than anything you've ever experienced in real life. How do you do it? How do you explain perfection? It's a really good game.
In a decade full of love letters to games of the past, something you'll see crop up a few more times in this list, I'm so glad the beat-em-up genre got its love letter in the form of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the movie, the game. A game that sadly isn't really available anymore, but gave a fantastic couch co-op experience that had all of the adrenaline-pumping action you want in a beat-em-up game ramped up to infinity. The animation in this game is fantastic. Fighting stuff felt so good, and in a time when it was out that beat-em-ups were all the rage again, I feel like this was the pinnacle of that. The RPG elements that were here were fantastic. The boss fights, so much fun. The set pieces in the game looked great. The soundtrack, Anamanaguchi, was amazing! And this was everything I could have ever asked for an adaptation of a thing of another thing. This game has its own form of humor that I think comes across really well, and as far as, again, couch co-op experiences, this is one of the best I had this decade, hands down. Nintendo really spared no expense at giving gamers the ultimate version of an experience they could have with a certain type of franchise. In a few instances in this decade, they did it with Super Mario Maker. You'll see it a few more times in this list. And they also reached peak 3D Mario, gave people the ultimate 3D Mario experience with Super Mario Odyssey. The music in this game, fantastic. The fact that there's so much shit to find is amazing. It is the collectathon to end all collectathons for Mario games. You know, there's so many weird small little things in all of these big maps to find. You know, just when you think, oh, I found the last one. Nope, you gotta do this thing with Cappy that takes you to a place that puts you in this one specific area and there's a moon there. There's a lot of that shit in Mario Odyssey, and I'm fine with that. You know, I like exploring these worlds. They make them full of life in their own ways, and this game is fun to play. Mario has not felt this fun to control since Mario 64, in my opinion. I love playing this game. I've been dipping my toes into it a lot recently, and I have been enjoying my experience, hands down, the best 3D Mario experience I think we'll ever get in our lifetime, and it is so full of charm. It's so much fun. As you'll see littered throughout the rest of my 100 games of the decade list, there's a handful of stealth games. I'm a big fan of stealth games, even if I haven't played one particular popular stealth franchise. And I'm glad that the Souls-like games got their own stealth game in the form of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Now, like I've said a couple times already, we're not that far removed from my opinion of this game, but I still, out of every game I played last year, don't feel like I've gotten as much satisfaction as I did when doing anything successful in Sekiro. It gives me all the satisfaction I get from completing something in a Souls-like game, on top of all the satisfaction I get when I do something masterfully in a stealth game. This game is so well constructed. I love the combat. I know some people don't, but I'm a big fan of the combat in this game, and I love the stealth. I think the stealth works perfectly. Like I said in my Games of the Year last year list, I'm a big fan of the Tenchu games, and this feels like a modern Tenchu game, something I did not think I would ever see. I love stealth games, and I think that this is the best, maybe, stealth game I had this year, or at least a game solely built around stealth aesthetics. There's other stealth mechanics in some of the games on this list, but as far as a game where stealth is a pretty big attribute of the game, I'm glad that Sekiro exists, because it is definitely the best of it.
I think we can put our differences behind us. For science.
An incredibly surprising direct sequel. I didn't think that they were going to make Portal any better, because I love Portal. I think Portal's a great, cute, charming little game. But they took that cute charminess and ramped it up to infinity by adding a couple of new characters, giving you more set pieces, and fleshing out the world of Aperture Laboratories.
Your science adventure. Your test assignment will vary depending on the manner in which you have bent the world to your will.
And I love that about it. I love the couple of new things they added to make the puzzles more puzzling. I love the co-op aspect of this game. I love the story. I love the ending. So much of this game is great. And I love a lot of the sort of small little details they added to the co-op as well, like the ability to see your partner's screen. There's just a lot of cool shit in this game that I think works really well. And like I said in my games that don't need sequels list, I don't need another one. I'm happy with Portal 2 being the last piece of the Portal story we have. I think it wrapped up Shell's story, a nice bow. I love this game so very much, and I'm glad that it is as good as it is.
So, how are you holding up? Because I'm a potato.
You already know I like Alien. Talked about it in my top 11 favorite horror films list. I think I mentioned I also love Aliens. I have a soft spot for this franchise. I love the design of the Xenomorph. You know, I think Prometheus is a little underrated. You know, I like a lot of aspects of this franchise, and Alien Isolation is probably the best game to stem from this franchise. You know, I love the story. I love that it involves, you know, Ripley's daughter. I really love the alien in this game. Like, I know I talked about PT being one of the most unnerving experiences I have ever played, but this game is like one of the most scared, intense I've been playing a game. The AI of the alien in this game is one of the smartest ever. It is so smart. You could try your hardest to survive, but if it's around, you're probably going to die at least once your first go around. I love that just when you think it's over, you still got more shit to do. It's a great fucking experience. Probably the best horror game I've played all decade. The Zelda games and direct sequels aren't always a guaranteed success. I mean, look at Zelda 2 or Phantom Hourglass. You know, I think Majora's Mask is the only one that really works and is well received all around. Until A Link Between Worlds came out, and Nintendo just kind of gave us the best 2D Zelda experience you could probably ask for. Like, I love A Link Between Worlds. I love that the Hyrule has enough changes that are rewarding for people who played the old game. I love how seamless the new mechanic is integrated into the gameplay. I like how it works with the boss fights. I just loved this game. I loved it so much that, like, immediately after I beat it, I played the hard mode. I can't say many games that I beat made me want to do that. But I enjoy the experience of playing this game so very much. And probably my favorite 3DS game. Like, it's the best one to play in 3D. Like, it uses the hardware very well, and it's a great fucking time. Like, I love the way that they kind of changed low rule, like the Dark World into low rule. I love how they remixed the themes for this game. There's just so much great about this game that I feel like kind of was lost to time. People don't talk about this game anymore, and it's kind of upsetting because it's pretty amazing. I can't think of another game that shaped the gaming landscape outside of me Minecraft more than Dark Souls. You know, like, people complain about the difficulty of other games, and Dark Souls is like the direct comparison people make to it. And I mean, it's obvious to see why. This game isn't easy. Dark Souls 1 is not an easy game, and it's a game where I have had my patience tested with it time in and time out. But I have also loved my experience with the game by and large. Like, I know I said that Sekiro was a pretty rewarding experience, but that all stemmed from Dark Souls. You know, I love Dark Souls, and I love the impact it's had on the gaming scene, and I love that it's shaped genres. You know, Metroidvania's kind of got a reinvention because of Dark Souls, and you'll see me talk about that on this list at the top of 100 as well. And, you know, I love the framework of this game. I love the combat of this game. I love, you know, the fact that there's a lot of shit here. I love that when the world opens up to you, it becomes this, like, huge exploration challenge. You know, it doesn't feel overbearing because it's very linear in approach, but, like, I love how big the world is. I love the boss fights. There's a lot of great things in this game, and it's amazing that I haven't played any of the sequels to Dark Souls because of how much I love this game. But I love this series. I love this genre of game, and it all stemmed from this. And so, yeah, I'm just talking about how much I love Dark Souls for, like, the first time on the internet. I was so fucking hyped for this game the minute I saw it. I have never owned merch for a game that I had never played before Cuphead. I'm a gigantic fan of old school cartoons, like old Tex Avery cartoons. It's an aesthetic that I think fucking kills, and I think this game excels in delivering that aesthetic perfectly while creating a fun experience within it. I love this fucking game. I love the controls. I love that, yeah, it's fucking hard, but man, is it rewarding when you beat a boss. I actually recently beat a boss that I've been stuck on for like a couple of weeks, and it was so satisfying to kill that son of a bitch, and I love that feeling. You'll see that a lot in this list. I love when a game is challenging, and I love the reward of beating something that is difficult. And there's a couple of games where I'll say that it's the best of that type of game, but as far as this type of arcade run and gun type game goes, you can't beat Cuphead as far as what came out this decade. It is so rewarding, it's so much fun, it's so good to look at, and its soundtrack is the tits. Remember what I said a couple parts ago about Cuphead and how it's the best of its genre as far as difficulty and presentation goes, and I said that Dark Souls really was hard to find a game that matched it as far as influence in game design throughout the decade. Hollow Knight was the game I had in mind. I'm talking about both of those things. This game is top tier. You guys may have been seeing me stream it last year. I'm going to get back to that at some point, hopefully soon. But I have had so much fun playing Hollow Knight. It's the type of Metroidvania that actually feels challenging to beat. You know, I've played a handful of Metroidvanias this decade, and not to say that they were easy, but because I played so many Metroidvanias, I kind of know what to expect when it comes to games that use the convictions of that gameplay genre a lot, and Hollow Knight subverts them in the best way possible. I love playing this game because it actually feels satisfying to accomplish things. I love the boss fights. I love the platforming. I love the adding, like, the power-ups they give you and when they give them to you. They give everything to you at the best times. I love the imagery within this game. I love the music. There's just so much oozing out of this game that I just want to gobble all up. And it's a lot of fun. Like, as far as the pinnacle of Metroidvanias. Like, this is where Metroidvanias needed to go as far as gameplay is considered, and the presentation as well is just aces all around. I adore this fucking game. This is hands down the best Spider-Man story across all mediums. Like, I love Spider-Verse, probably my favorite Spider-Man movie. And Far From Home was my favorite live-action Spider-Man movie. I don't know what my favorite Spider-Man comic arc is. That might be the only thing that has a better story than this. But this is such a great contained story. It's like a great universe for Spider-Man to live in. I love the players at play. I love where they put them in relation to Peter. Like, there's some things in this game that I can't wait to see where they follow it up, because the story in this game really builds itself up well before getting fucking batshit crazy. I love the Peter in this game. I love the Mary Jane in this game. I love that Miles is integrated pretty well into this story. There's just a lot of shit with this game that is all of the Spider-Man all the time. Like, everyone was praising Spider-Verse for being a love letter to Spider-Man fans, and it totally fucking is. But so is Spider-Man for the PS4. And you guys know, I fucking eat up Spider-Man like he's Skittles. It's just so sweet to experience Spider-Man and have it done so well. And Insomniac gets Spider-Man in a way I was not expecting. This game is so very good. And like a couple of games that I've talked about in this list already, I haven't had a game where I've been so ample to just beat it immediately, like to just do every single possible thing I could. But I did with this game because it was a fun New York to explore, Spider-Man was fun to control, and this game was just so grade A with its presentation. Like, I love the stealth in this game, I love the fighting in this game, I love how Spider-Man works, and just all around. It's such a good game.
I also can't think of another game in recent memory that's been capitalizing on this photo mode trend that I've utilized to its fullest extent, quite like I have with Spider-Man for the PS4. I've taken so many goddamn pictures of Spider-Man, J. Jonah Jameson will be shitting his pants.
I know I had Smash below Spider-Man on my Games of the Year for 2018 list, but because I have the game myself now, and I've been going through the sort of pilgrimage of unlocking everybody, I've been training amiibos, I've been playing Smash like I normally do, but now I own the game, so I get to play it in my free time as well. I just adore this game. Like I said earlier, when Nintendo was creating the ultimate experience you can get out of certain franchises, they definitely have done that with Smash Brothers and Smash Brothers Ultimate. It's fun to fight, it's competitive enough, and it's casual enough. They strike the best balance to please both sides of the fence.
They've also continued the batshit reveals that they started in Brawl and continued forth with Mega Man and Cloud from the last game by having some of the best reveals of the fucking year that it came out, with Banjo and Terry. Even fucking Sans got a rapturous applause. The reveals for this game have been insane.
I love the level of customization you can have with the rule sets, down to the level change-ups. This game is just everything I could have ever imagined wanting from Smash Bros. In a nice package. I have had so much fun with this game, especially in recent months, that I can't say I've had in many multiplayer-centric experiences. This game is just amazing, and I'm so glad that Nintendo is finally doing this with their franchises. I mean, I love this game so much. Like, Shovel Knight is probably the best version of this type of action platformer, that we've gotten in a long time. Certainly this decade, obviously. I think the success story of the decade is Yacht Club. Like, they are what anybody who starts up any sort of online campaign wants to become. Not only have they made this successful franchise with multiple sequel games, all of which seemingly are just as good. They also made an amazing fighting game out of this character. They got into
the most popular platform fighter to stem this decade, at least from what I can see. You know, they made such an iconic character in Shovel Knight. He's got his own amiibo, something that not many non-Nintendo entities can say that aren't in Smash, like, as a fighter. You know, the Yacht Club just seemingly knew what they were doing. You know, the level of depth in this game for it being such a simple-looking game. You know, there's a lot of nuance to the combat, to the boss fights, to the upgrades you can get. You know, everything is purposeful in the right ways. Like, this is a textbook example of how to make a classic type of game in a contemporary sense. You know, I love a lot of everything about this game. The music is perfect. The presentation is top-notch. The writing across the board, whether it be this game or the side games, is aces. You know, I love that there's stuff like console exclusives, like fighting Kratos in the PlayStation version. You know, they just did it right. They knew what is great about games, and they made a game with all of those bells and whistles, with a perfect game at its core. The first year or so that I was exposed to Overwatch, I didn't actually have my own version of it. I played it at a friend's house that I was house sitting for. But the first time I picked it up, I knew I had a brand new favorite game that I needed to get immediately. And once I did get it, boy, was I happy. I could not put it down. You know, say what you want about the community, but the game itself is so amazing, and they keep making it balanced in its own way. You know, people get frustrated about buffs and nerfs for characters, and even my mains have gone through their own thing. Right now, I'm happy with my mains. I think they work very well. Obviously, I've made a segment out of this on the channel, and I could not tell you the amount of fun, and I feel like friendships I've enriched because of Overwatch. You know, I've talked to old friends through Overwatch. Like, this game has just been a fantastic piece of gaming culture this decade. Again, say what you want about the community. Community aside, and really some of the stigmata around the game aside, the game itself is fun, and that's all I needed it to be. As far as shooting goes, I think it's hard to match this. This game is really fucking fun. And I like the team aspect of it. I like that each character kind of balances and compares with something else. You know, I like the combinations you can have. And there's obviously successful ones, but I like that you can just get weird with it. They just let you have fun with it. You know, and that's the heart of this game. And while I'm not maybe necessarily as excited for the sequel, I still love the first game that we got, and the run that it's had, I think, is pretty impressive. A couple of months ago, I was talking to Shake about Breath of the Wild, and we were talking about playing it because we're both huge Zelda fans, and I can't tell you of a more euphoric experience that I had this decade when it came to gaming than I did when playing through the first couple of hours of Breath of the Wild. Like, it was just such an enthralling experience. You know, every time I did something, and that's across the board in the game, every time you do something, every time you discover something, it's like falling in love again. You're like, oh my god, I can do this. Let me see all the things I can do with this one thing. And there's probably an insurmountable amount of things you can do with that one thing. You know, this game is just the pinnacle of Zelda. Like I've said, the Nintendo has made the best ultimate experience they have with certain franchises. This is the ultimate Zelda experience. You know, I love that it doesn't follow the Zelda formula. I love that it's rooted more to Zelda 1. I love exploring this Hyrule. It is lush with life. And everything you get to do is just amazing. You know, I love I think that they are a nice way to circumvent not having a lot of temples in the game. I like that the story, you can tell it at your own pace. The stakes are already set, and you can get there whenever you want. And you can just have fun in the meantime while you build yourself up to being able to do the thing that you need to do. You know, this game is just, it's a magical experience. that I don't think Nintendo will ever give us again for Zelda outside of maybe the Breath of the Wild sequel. Like, this is the pinnacle of Zelda. And, man, is it good. Man, is it so very good. Like, I love this experience so very much. And, honestly, I don't have my own copy of it. I'm getting one soon. But I know that when I get it, I will have the time of my life actually going through and beating it. I've put so much time into this game, and it's not even mine. It's insane. But I know that when I get it myself, it's over. Like, I'm not going to be able to do anything else for, like, months. And I'm fully prepared for that.
And that was it. That was the list. What did you think about it? If you would like to see the list for my top 100 favorite games of the decade, a written list that I made, it is linked in the description. But either way, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this list, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdery content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons if you would like to join their ranks. Linked in the description is my Patreon. I'm gonna get out of here. I've been Viral Rack. You guys are good ideas, situations, and I'll see you another day.
You